A watch with misaligned text on the dial by a reputable brand, and I still love it. We've got plenty to talk about. This is the Christopher Ward Super Compressor. Let's check it out. Hey guys, this is Josh from What's It All About. When I first cast eyes upon the Christopher Ward Super Compressor, I've got to admit it didn't really jump out at me. I mean, build quality and value for money would never have been in doubt. I'm just personally not that crazy about vintage inspired watches. But as they started to get into other people's hands and the positive reviews of this watch started bellowing out, I decided to take another look. So there's three key talking points with the Super Compressor. Firstly, the case. Now I know what you're thinking, so what? There's loads of Super Compressor watches out there. You know, some are dead cheap. For instance, Spinnaker, they've got a Super Compressor for about 200 quid. However, they're not real Super Compressors. They just mimic the internal rotating bezel with a crown at 2. This, however, is the first real Super Compressor in 50 years, according to Christopher Ward. It's also the first genuine Super Compressor case with an exhibition case back. So what exactly is a Super Compressor, I hear you ask? Well, it's a mechanism inside the case that increases the water resistance the further down you dive. But again, I know what you're saying, hang on, this watch only has 150 meters water resistance. Is there any point? Well, in a word, no. It's highly unlikely. You know, a watch like this could easily have 150 meters water resistance. It doesn't need that Super Compressor technology within. But for many things in the horological world, most of the time these impressive elements are done just because they can. No one really needs a double tourbillon, do they? But it doesn't stop Breguet and Grubel Forsey from making them for an eye-watering amount. The second and third points are surrounding the dial. One positive, one negative, a double-edged sword, if you will. What's the positive then? Just look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it is so much nicer in the metal, in the hand, than the pictures suggest. The colours are dreamy and the finishing is delightful. This model I have in my hands is the ocean blue, and just looking at it, I do feel transported to a beach on Barbados or the Seychelles, not in dreary old Warwickshire, the furthest place you could possibly be from a beach in the UK. However, not all is hunky-dory in the land of the Christopher Ward Super Compressor. Somehow, they've managed to misalign some text at the bottom of the dial, the words Super Compressor. Now, before we get into that, it's actually nowhere near as bad as I was expecting with the watch in my hand. In fact, it's barely noticeable unless you are staring directly at it. Yes, no denying, a big boo-boo for sure. However, rather surprisingly, it doesn't stop me at all from enjoying the watch. So before we dig into the rest of the watch, let's just consider a quick spec check. So the dimensions are 41mm diameter, 13mm height, and a 47mm lug-to-lug length, 94 grams weight, so fairly lightweight, 150 meters water resistance rating. The movement is a Sellita SW200-1. Rather disappointingly, this one's coming in at plus 17.6 seconds a day. 22mm lug width. You get that very impressive Christopher Ward 5-year guarantee with this watch as well, and prices start at £895. The Christopher Ward Super Compressor utilises the brand's tremendous light catcher case. Let me tell you, it is a magnificent case for a watch under £1,000. Multifaceted, beautiful sleek lines, plentiful beveling and contrasting finishing. It really is a sight to behold at every angle, and it's because of this slender appearance that it actually wears so much sweeter than the 41mm diameter and 13mm height suggests. That's on my 7-inch wrist. Of course, due to the popularity of this style of watch with the jewel crowns and the internal bezel in the 1970s, this just naturally becomes a vintage inspired piece. The top crown rotates the 120 click inner bezel. Now on cheaper watches, I've found that this always seems to be free flowing, not only counterclockwise, but also clockwise. You can do it either way and they don't have any clicks or anything like that. However here, it only rotates anti-clockwise, like your normal diving bezel would and should. And it also has a lovely subtle click at each half minute, which was a pleasant, unexpected touch, to be honest, because I'm so used to the internal crowns just free flowing. I love the orange ring flanking the crosshatch pattern on the end of the crown as well, providing a splash of colour that ties in with the hands, the arrow at 12, and the compression spring at the rear of the case. The dial has that gorgeous sunray ocean blue, which works really well with the orange accents. The colour scheme is obviously just another retro nod. The handset, in particular the bold orange minute hand, is reminiscent of the Omega Ploprov, a diving icon from the 70s. The Trident counterweight on the seconds hand is ever present throughout the Trident range, delicately and impressively formed. The applied hour markers are a three-dimensional delight. Taller at the outer edge with a loomed filled channel than the inner, it slopes down with beveled edges and a spotless, polished finish. Super Luminova grade X1 GLC1 has been used across the watch and is reasonably well applied and is effective at viewing the watch in the dark. You know, there was a day when Christopher Ward watches had genuinely really bad lume, but thankfully those days have now long gone because all of their new watches seem to be very, very good in the lume department. There are cute little pips located at the ends of the hour markers. Interestingly, they are orange up to 4, so orange pips at 12, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then the rest are white for the rest of the hours. This will be to mimic the usual where diver's bezel has the first 15 to 20 minutes highlighted in some way or another. And interestingly, that originates back to the 50s and would be used for timing decompression stops as a diver resurfaced to obviously avoid the bends, which is a good thing. No one wants the bends. The glass box sapphire crystal with a bubble edge maximizes the vintage 1960s feel even more. It has excellent clarity, but a really distinctive, beautiful, mellow distortion at shallow angles, which is really nice to behold. Now, this particular model that was sent through to me comes loaded with the excellent hybrid strap. The hybrid strap is comprised of rubber and Cordura nylon. Soft and supple out of the box, really easy, comfortable on the wrist. Obviously, it also has quick release pins, so it'll be quick and easy to switch over to. Finally, let's mention the movement. The Sellita SW200-1 is basically a clone of the ETA 2824-2, but with a cheeky little extra jewel in there. It boasts a pleasant twin flag engraving over a, bear with me on this word, Colimachone finish on the rotor. Now, I'm not sure what that means exactly. You know, they could have just made that word up for all I know. In fact, I googled the word and only Christopher Ward shows up when I Google that word, so it might just be a word that they've made up. But anyway, specs, 26 joules, a high beat rate of 28.8 thousand beats per hour, so that's 8 ticks a second, 38-hour power reserve, hand and automatic winding. Now, I mentioned this in the spec section. This one is coming in at a pretty wild plus 17.6 seconds a day, which is, I'm not gonna lie, pretty disappointing. So what are my final comments on this watch? That text alignment, oh boy. You know, how did that get through quality assurance? How did it get through QA? I mean, it's a shocker for sure. But to be honest, I've not even noticed it whilst wearing it. Maybe it's because the blue backdrop and the orange, they merge together quite nicely. It's only when you pay real close attention to it, you can see it. I do understand actually that the latest batch and the very latest models have had the issue fixed, which is obviously a very good thing. Thankfully, Christopher Ward have quickly resolved that. However, this watch just has a charm, a coolness about it that's really hard to put my finger on. I guess that means that it's well balanced, effortless and purposeful in design, which is a really hard balance to achieve. The build quality through and through is tremendous. It really is a delight to wear. The light catcher case is one of the best cases I've ever come across on a watch under £1,000. Can you look past the text alignment? If so, this is a serious watch that all fans of retro divers should definitely consider. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, your thoughts below as well. Do you think that you could see past the text alignment? Do you think that is a massive shocker from Christopher Ward? Let me know, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye-bye.